All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Seattle Seahawks in today's video because a lot of new information this past weekend. First off, Clint Kubiak will be interviewed for your offensive coordinator position tomorrow. I think that is game changing. I also really like Hank Fraley, but we'll get to all of that a little bit later on in the video. I want to start it off talking about this team in general because you just fired Ryan Grubb last week, the offensive coordinator. Seattle's offense finished 14th in total yards, 332.2 yards per game, and 21st in scoring at 20. They also were the fourth worst rushing team in the NFL, averaging only 95.7 rushing yards per game. They were 17th in yards per carry, 29th in designed rush rate, and 28th in average time of possession. So not good metrics by any means. JSN officially is on Star Watch. JSN just had a breakout sophomore campaign, but I have a lot of opinions on Ryan Grubb, and I was happy to see that he got fired, not in the sense of maybe they couldn't, not in the sense of like, he was the worst possible candidate, but here's the reason Ryan Grubb was even hired as the offensive coordinator. So 2 weeks from now, 1 year ago, it was like almost the last day or the second to last day in January, Mike Macdonald was hired as the Seahawks head coach. It was the 7th out of 8th timing for coaches in that slate. I know that doesn't make too much sense, but he was the 7th coach hired. And there was one guy after him. I don't remember who it was. But my point was, it was so late in the offseason. It was so late in the coaching cycle that I just feel like they kind of settled for Ryan Grubb. And so that's why I'm excited to move on, because it just didn't work last year. But folks, before we get any further into tonight's video, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. I apologize to my Seahawks fans. I haven't made a Seahawks video in like 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks, because you just went 10-7 and missed the playoffs. It's crazy that even happened. I don't know if that had happened at any point in the NFL with the new 7th wild card spot since it's why can't I think of words in today's video? Since it was added, since another wild card team was added, I don't think there's been a 10-7 team to miss the playoffs entirely. And it sucks because, Geno Smith's 34 years old. I definitely think it's something interesting to watch this upcoming season. Seattle has some question marks in that department as far as like, all right, well, DK kind of had a down year in the sense of he should be getting way more production. He should be way higher. I don't even think he cleared 1,000 yards. I'm going to check it right now because I don't think he did. 66 catches, 992 yards, but he got targeted 108 times. Like, DK Metcalf is a star wide receiver. JSN's a star wide receiver. Like I said, he had a phenomenal season. But, Kenneth Walker, you got Zach Charbonnet, even Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant. There's way too much talent on Seattle's offensive side of things for all the inconsistency that they had last year. So that's why I'm a little excited to hear who these interview requests are going to be. Now, keep in mind, guys, Mike Macdonald said no in-house offensive coaches were currently under consideration for a promotion to a coordinator spot. And there's 3 reported interview requests. I was reading this article from Mookie Alexander. Go check it out. Great article. But there's 3. Clint Kubiak, Hank Fraley, and then the worst option by far, in my opinion, but I'm a biased Chicagoland person, Thomas Brown, and we're going to run through it. So today, Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for the New Orleans Saints, interviewed for the OC job with the Cleveland Browns. Tomorrow, the Seattle Seahawks will interview him. I love Kubiak. I love this tree, but Clint specifically, offensively, I love what he does. You saw it right away for the New Orleans Saints. They won their first 2 games of the season, and then the injuries started to add up, and it also just wasn't even really that good of a roster. Kubiak has play calling experience. He was the passing game coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers in 2023, and he was also the Minnesota Vikings offensive coordinator in 2021. Now, I've actually seen from a lot of Seahawks fans in Twitter and comments and articles, a lot of people are not big on Clint Kubiak being the offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks team. I completely disagree. I think he would be an absolutely phenomenal hire. Now, let's just move down the list. Hank Fraley is the Detroit Lions offensive line coach. Now, he's never been an offensive coordinator. He has never called plays. He has exclusively been an offensive line coach in college and in the NFL. This is really interesting to me because that could scare you, that he doesn't have experience calling plays. That could scare you. But one thing that is extremely evident for me with the Seattle Seahawks, whether it's injuries or talent or most mainly a combination of both, the offensive line needs tweaking. It needs a lot of tweaking. I like your guys' tackles, but with Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, even if Ryan Grubb is not calling the proper plays and it's not the proper scheme and it's not the proper system, I don't care. There's so many excuses you could bring up. There's no way, shape, or form a running back room with Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet should be the fourth worst rushing team in the NFL. I do not. It makes absolutely zero sense to my mind. It makes zero sense. And a lot of those games last year, because Geno Smith threw a lot of picks, threw 15 total interceptions. He threw for 4,321 yards. He had 21 passing touchdowns. He had a rating of 93.2. I actually think Geno had a solid season considering the offensive line. This dude was running for his life every other play. All right. The offensive line needs tweaking. And so to bring in an offensive line coach, it kind of gets me excited. Like, oh, he's going to want the proper offensive lineman, and he could fix this running game, and he could fix all of that. He could fix the offensive line, right? So that's why I like Hank Fraley as an idea. And then finally, this is a little bit biased because he seems like a really cool guy, but there's Thomas Brown. He was the Chicago Bears interim head coach. He was previously the Chicago Bears passing game coordinator, and then he got promoted because Shane Waldron, as you guys know, got fired from the Chicago Bears. And when Matt Eberflus was fired, the head coach for Chicago, he was named the interim head coach. Now, he does technically have some prior play calling experience. He was the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers in 2023 and the University of Miami in 2016. I think Thomas Brown, as a person, seems really cool. But there's a reason he's not the head coach. He's not going to be the head coach for the Chicago Bears this upcoming year. I think it's just a little bit too premature. I think it's a little bit too young, a little bit unproven for my liking. And I understand it because when you look at the Seahawks team, they just went 10-7, and the offensive line, all the issues with the offense, the defense really, they went through a rough period when they were injured, early mid in the season. But the Seattle Seahawks, with all these issues, just went 10-7. And I'm not trying to be rude. It's not like you guys have like this book of issues. But my point is, as inconsistent as that offense was, 22.1 points per game, they were 10-7. But when you zoom out, Mike McDonald, that was his rookie season. And he should be in the playoffs right now. Even if they were going to get walloped by the Philadelphia Eagles like my Packers did yesterday, you still make the playoffs in your first year. So it sucks you won 10-7 and missed. But the point is, something needs to change. They knew the offensive coordinator needed to change, and that's why Ryan Grubb was fired. And this is early on in the interview process. I would hope Seattle makes their hire sooner rather than later, but I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say down below. Who do you want the Seahawks OC to be next year? Thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, and we'll see you soon. Peace.